looking at my Bible, learning so much from Will Gundy, Auntie Helen, Uncle Joe. But now we're hiding right here, and we've got some interesting books to look at today, because there's some guys in the Old Testament who are like spies. I never knew that. These guys are called prophets, and there's some new books we're going to learn about today. They're kind of like the spy guys. So let's cut across. Uncle Joe. Joe, tell us about the books of the prophecy.
Hi, spy guy. Long time no see. Yeah, there are books in the Bible that are full of prophecy. They are brought to us by the prophets. There are 5 major prophets, and their names are Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel, and Daniel.
Okay, so we've got prophets in the Bible. They're like spy guys because they can tell stuff that nobody else really knows. And we've seen the first 5 major guys. There's another 7. Joe, what about the other 7?
7? It's 12, spy guy. 12. And they are minor prophets. And their names are Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi.
Wow, that's a whole lot of prophets, not 7. 12 minor prophets. Just remember that, spy guy. I'll never get anything wrong. So, actually, there's 17 prophets in the Bible, and they tell a little bit about the future. They get to tell stuff that others don't know, so they're like the spies. So, I want you to start thinking about the prophets in the Bible, the books of the prophecy. We're going to cut back to Auntie Helen now. Joe and I will just be hiding, working this out. We'll see you again soon. Cheers now.
Thanks, Spy Guy and Joe. That was excellent. Right, guys, I wonder if you know what a donkey, some coins, and a cup have in common. Sounds like the start of a really bad dad joke, doesn't it? But actually, these 3 things are part of the most amazing story that you will ever know, and a story of God's great love for us. So, exactly 1 year ago today was Palm Sunday, and it was the day that Jesus rode into Jerusalem on a donkey. And the people that were there were hundreds and hundreds of people gathered, and they were waving palms, and they laid them down where he rode, so that he rode over the palm leaves. And this was a very significant thing, because a palm, it meant that he was victorious. It meant that he came as a victor. It also meant, coming on a donkey, something very significant. In those days, in the biblical times and in ancient times, when a king rode into a town and he was riding on a horse, it meant everybody was afraid, because he was coming to battle. He was there to plunder, to destroy, to kill. He was there for war. But when a king rode into town on a donkey, it declared that he was coming in peace. He wasn't coming to conquer. He wasn't coming to take over. He was coming in peace. So the day that Jesus rode into Jerusalem on a donkey, he declared 2 things. The one is that he was a king. And the second thing was that he came in peace. And everybody welcomed him. Everybody loved him. He was this man who had performed incredible miracles. He was this man, when he spoke life. So let's have a little look at a video clip just to see what happened as he was welcomed, just so you get the feel for it.
Judas, this is amazing!
They should be making more noise. This is their soon-to-be king. Jesus shouldn't be riding a donkey. A king rides a stallion. This isn't what we need. If he's going to be king, he needs to start behaving as a king.
Okay, people, please do not push. There will be plenty of time to get autographs later.
Giz, what are you doing?
Crowd control is part of my job as Chris's manager.
Hey, it's good practice for when I'm a real rock star.
He is stirring up the people, making an entrance like this.
I've seen worse crowds.
Notice they wave palm branches, the symbol for a conquering hero. Is Rome ready to have Jesus the Conqueror replace Caesar? Jesus of Nazareth! You should calm this crowd at once. You are creating a public nuisance.
I tell you that if these should keep silent, the stones themselves would immediately cry out.
This is great! Can't stop a rising star!
Judas, this is getting out of hand and you know it.
He's going to the temple. Things will calm.
Right, so we saw our first clue was the donkey. Now our second clue was coins. And these are a really important reminder or indicator of why Jesus came to earth at all. We learned in the last few weeks that Jesus is part of the Trinity. He is part of the Godhead. He is all-powerful. He has all authority over heaven and earth. He is amazing, and he was worshipped and glorified in heaven, but he chose to come down to earth. And these coins are a reminder of why he did that. Now we know, don't we, that when Jesus walked on the earth, he gathered lots of people around him. Everybody followed him. He was incredible. But he had a very small group of very special friends. They were his disciples. Now one of those people, and you'll know his name, was Judas. And he walked with Jesus every day for 3 years. They lived life together. But Judas never really got what Jesus was doing. He never understood what Jesus was trying to achieve. You know, Jesus was following God's plans, and Judas didn't understand. He wasn't making them wealthy. They didn't have lots of money. He wasn't being a conquering king and going in and taking out the enemy and destroying the Romans. He spoke peace and he spoke love. Do you remember how angry Judas got when Mary poured that incredibly expensive perfume onto Jesus' feet and washed them? He was so angry. He wanted something to happen, but it wasn't happening. Jesus wasn't doing what he thought he should do. And often, children, we can be a lot like Judas. We want things to go our way. We can be selfish. And we don't want to listen to what God is doing in our lives and showing us. We want to have it our way. But thankfully, Jesus chose not to do his way, to go his way. He listened to God. And the third clue, the third thing that we had was this cup. In the Garden of Gethsemane, we will see, I'm going to show you a very short clip, Jesus asking his Father to take this cup of suffering away from him. This little clip, and it's very short, is going to show you the pain of that time when Jesus wrestled with the cup of suffering that he knew was coming.
Father, if you are willing, please take this cup of suffering away from me. And I want your will to be done, not mine.
In Psalms and in Isaiah and other books in the Old Testament, when the Bible refers to the word cup, what it is talking about is God's divine judgment on his people. You know, when God looked at the Israelites, often in those stories we've talked about in the Old Testament, he saw where they were sinning, where they were being unrighteous, where they were not following his ways, where they chose to disobey him, and he had to punish them. And Jesus knew that we could never meet God's standard. We are always making mistakes. We always mess up. And he knew that if we were to have eternal life, if we were to be forgiven for all our sins, it was going to take a massive sacrifice, and that he couldn't discard this cup. He had to take it on. He had to drink from this cup of suffering and sacrifice himself. And when Jesus lifted up the cup at the Last Supper, which is just before he was crucified, he was showing his disciples that it was his body that was going to be broken. It was his blood that was going to be shed to pay the price. He was the perfect sacrifice, the perfect lamb. You know, the Jews were used to every year finding the most perfect lamb, one sacrifice for one family for 1 year. But in doing what he did, Jesus was showing his disciples and all of us that he was the perfect sacrifice for all time, so that we could all live in eternity with him forever. So those are those three things. In summary, there's a donkey that showed that God had a new plan, a new life for us to live. That was a life of joy, a life of love, a life of peace. Yes, we're in a battle, but it's not a battle that we're going to fight with swords and armor and guns. It's a spiritual battle. And we have to put on our armor of God, our shield of faith, our helmet of salvation. We need to know what those are, because our battle is against, not against flesh and blood, it's against powers and principalities. That's what Jesus was showing. We live in peace and we fight our war in the spiritual world. And the second thing was the money. That so often we think we can make our own plan. If we get enough money, then we can buy what we need and we'll be happy. But Judas shows us that wasn't right. Judas killed himself. He was so shameful of what he'd done. He was so desperately sad at what he'd done that he killed himself. Jesus promises us that he will provide everything we need. He wants us to put our trust in him, to follow him, and he shows us the way. And then the cup. He had a choice. He could have chosen, like Adam in the Garden of Eden, years and years and years ago. He could have chosen to disobey God. He had that choice. But he chose not to do that. He chose to obey. And that's what he asks us to do, to obey God, God's commands, to follow his rules, to read the book that gives us all the information that we need to live a victorious life. So guys, as we go into this Easter week, and it's such a wonderful time, and I know you love the chocolates and the Easter eggs, but I really want you to think about Good Friday. Good Friday is the day we remember this battle that Jesus had in the Garden of Gethsemane, and that we are in this battle. And we ask him, on Friday, ask him to give you strength so that you can fight those battles. And then we're going to come into Easter prepared and ready for all that lies ahead, because the battle is won and he is victorious. So have a great week, guys. One of the things you can do is you're going to make palm crosses. Hopefully you've got some palms in your garden. Maybe your leaves will be a bit longer than mine, but you can make a palm cross to remember that triumphant day when Jesus went into Jerusalem, but also what followed for Jesus. Okay, have a great week, and I'll see you at Easter.